hopefully this will work today. I think I've had pretty good success. All right, so since the video was kind of funky for you guys yesterday, let me do a little bit of review for you just to kind of. Okay, so we had come up through. Were you here when I talked about this? Okay, so real quick review, okay? Well, the first slide you saw, you were here for that, right? Okay. So origins of government. So like you go way back in world history and say, okay, how did governments form? How did states form? Okay. The force theory is like Attila the Hun or Genghis Khan, the Vikings, when they like take over another group of people and then make them live under their will, under their force. Okay. That's called the force theory. The evolutionary theory is kind of like a family tree. So it starts with one family. It grows into a clan, grows into a tribe. When we think of tribes, a lot of times we think of nomadic people that move from one place to another, hunter-gatherers, that sort of thing. But this tribe settles, and it creates a government and a state, okay? And so some states have grown out of the evolutionary theory, okay? And then the one that you're probably most familiar with is the divine right theory. And that goes back to, I mean, a lot of stuff you've studied. I mean, you guys are taking English right now, so you're studying the Magna Carta and stuff like that, the kings of England, of France, and Spain, and you guys have learned all about that throughout your history. And so these people claim a divine right to rule over a kingdom and over their people, that God gave them the power to do that. Okay? We reject that. Now, there is biblical precedent to that, right? I mean, when the Jews asked for a king, God gave them David. And he gave Saul. And Saul, right.
Well, they gave Saul and then David.
Saul and David. And that's a legitimate situation of divine right. But with these kings of England and so forth, no. Okay? So we're not buying that. We're going to reject that. And so yesterday I talked about the social contract theory, okay? And you've got Hobbes and Locke, okay? Hobbes has a very pessimistic view of humans, and really this is a study of humans. So are humans good or are they bad? Well, Hobbes thinks they're bad, and left to their own devices in a state of nature, okay? State of nature like the jungle, we will destroy each other. Okay? Life will be nasty, brutish, and short without somebody to control us. Okay? So Hobbes believed that we needed like a monarch or a king, somebody that would, I can't spell, a monarch, somebody that would control us. Okay? Now, he didn't necessarily believe in a divine right monarch, but somebody strong. Okay? He referred to his government as a Leviathan. The Leviathan's from the Bible as well, and that's like a sea monster that holds domain over the sea. Okay, the monarch holds domain over the people so that they can control us. Okay, because otherwise we're going to hurt each other. We're going to steal from each other. Because in his view, men are selfish and evil. Okay, and he's got a point. Because sometimes we behave that way, right? But Locke had a different view. He believed that the state of nature was created by God. And therefore, morality exists before nature or before government. And that human beings are naturally good. And that they can govern themselves. That we're good enough to make decisions on our own. Because we know the difference between right and wrong. And what is that called? That's called objective truth. Okay? That we are born knowing right from wrong. Of course, we learn some of that, but what's that little voice in your head that tells you not to do something when you're about to do something wrong? It's called your conscience, right? We know when we're doing something wrong. Okay, and we're also taught right from wrong. Okay, so Locke believes that we can govern ourselves, that we join together in a social contract. Now, the thing that you need to pay attention to and know about is this stuff right here in comparison to the next slide, which is the Declaration of Independence. Because a lot of Locke's ideas that we have natural rights, natural that we are born with, that government doesn't give us these rights. God gave us these rights of life, liberty, and property. Yeah, of course, Jefferson says life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, so Jefferson also says in the Declaration that governments that do not secure these rights can be overthrown. In fact, Locke said you have an obligation to abolish that government that does not secure your rights. Okay, and that's what we did. That's what the Declaration of Independence did. It said we are abolishing the British Empire from our place where we live. We want you out. Okay? We want our own government. Okay? So the government relies on the consent of the government, of the people, the governed, not God. Government's legitimacy comes from the people. We give the power of government to rule over us. Not some king that claims God gave them the right to rule. Okay? So that's the legitimacy. All right? So that's what we talked about yesterday, and that's a pretty good kind of review of what I was talking about. Okay? And then if you go to the next page, this isn't in your notes. I created this yesterday. But what Jefferson says, all men are created equal, endowed by their God, with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Secure these rights. Governments are instituted among men. We decide, deriving their powers from the men, from the governed, that whenever any form becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right to alter and abolish it, and institute new government, enter a new social contract. Okay? So it's often talked about returning. So the American Revolution, so we were under British control, and we declared independence and started the American Revolution. We entered back into a state of nature, a state of war, temporarily, in order to form a new social contract, a new government. And that's the story of our birth. And where do we get it? A lot of it we get from John Locke. Okay? He is owed a lot. We owe him a lot for his ideas and his philosophy. Okay? All right, next thing we did is we just hopped over to, I talked about that yesterday. I mean, I love talking about that, but we got to move on a little bit. Okay, so I got through the first two of these. 5 functions of government. Okay, these are all in your book. It's in your notes. But maintaining order, cop on the beat, soldier. Talk about unfair business practices. You know, do we want restaurants to monitor themselves as far as the cleanliness of their restaurants, whether they're safe, or do we want an outside, like a government agency, to kind of look into restaurants or meat packing plants to make sure that they're sanitary conditions? Okay, so government provides some of those services and order so that we don't have to worry about getting salmonella when we go out to eat. Okay, or finding cockroaches in our food, or rat droppings. We need inspectors, okay? Inspecting food, building roads, things that we can't do easily ourselves. Okay, it's hard for just individuals to say, hey, you guys, you want to go build a road? Okay, it's nice to have an entity that kind of collects tax money and says, okay, let's hire somebody to do this and make sure they do it right and that sort of thing. Okay. Now, a lot of things we can do on our own, but there are other things that sometimes are best left to government. Okay. Another major function of government is resolving conflicts. Okay. We did the political left and right thing, right? We did the conservative liberal. Well, oftentimes those two sides will come together and they will compromise when there's a problem. Okay, it's just like with the COVID, the lockdown. Republicans and Democrats got along well enough in Congress to pass a $3 trillion package to help people during the pandemic. Okay, now the second package they've been fighting about. Okay, and nothing's really been done on the second package. All right, they're using it for politics, which is stupid, but that's the way it is. Now the court system is really the one that resolves conflict between individuals in government, between governments. Okay, so the courts can resolve a dispute between Kansas and Nebraska over the amount of water that Nebraska takes out of the Arkansas River before it reaches us. We can sue them. The federal court will decide who's right. Okay, so that's an important part of government. Promoting values. I've mentioned this before on things like, values are basic principles which people act and live by. Okay, and there's certain values that government likes to promote, like marriage. So they give you a tax benefit for being married or having children. You get a tax benefit from them. Okay, those are values that the government tries to promote. Okay, so these are laws and policies set to reinforce them. Okay, the other thing, other things they help try and promote is equality of opportunity, making sure that everybody gets a good education, individual rights, and there's education. This number 5 here is the last one. And it's new, like the Old Testament textbook just had 4 functions. In a post 9/11 era, they've added this, okay, as national security. All right, so looking at cyber attacks against us, okay, I just had 6 emails come over from our AD, Tyler Frazier. And then he sent a message out, I got hacked. Okay, somebody hacked the system. Okay, Russia, China, other countries are always trying to hack into our system. Think about our satellites in space. Our military uses satellites for communication, GPS, all types of coordinates, right? If the Russians or the Chinese are able to hack into our systems, they could do us great harm. Think about the New York Stock Exchange, what they could do, wreak havoc on that. Okay, so this is something that our government, we rely on our government to protect us security-wise from cyber attack. Our borders, our ports of entry, those are places that they have to check to make sure that people aren't bringing across illegal contraband or, heaven forbid, some type of dirty bomb that could come in through our ports of entry. A dirty bomb would be like nuclear material, that could be spread, or a nuclear weapon, something like that. So at our ports of entry, they have Geiger counters where we have all these huge, shipping containers that come in on huge cargo ships. It's hard to go through and check all those, right? So you take a Geiger counter and you run it around, make sure there's no radiation coming from one of these things. Okay, so we don't do that ourselves. Government helps us with that. Okay, air and missile defense systems. I have a picture of the White House here, guys. I don't know if you know this, but there's missile defense systems on the roof. Okay, if planes come too close, they can be shot out of the sky. Okay. And missile defense is something that, this country's been working on fervently. Companies like Raytheon here in Wichita, Boeing. If North Korea were to launch a nuclear warhead from across the Pacific and aimed at San Francisco, California, okay, we have the ability to fire another rocket and hit it and knock it out of the sky. Our success rate on that is about 60%. So there's a 40% chance it gets through. Now, Russia and China have what are called multiple delivery systems. So they can send up one missile and fire multiple warheads from that one missile. So shooting down 4 or 5 out of the one is going to become a lot more difficult. So we're working on that. We're spending billions of dollars trying to figure that out. One of the things we're using is lasers. Okay, like Star Wars, Yeah.
I actually know about a laser defense system that's on a U.S. aircraft carrier called the U.S. Gerald R. Ford.
Yep, and what it does is you aim it at the other ship's engine, right? and it overheats their engine. So it doesn't like blow them up, right? The laser doesn't blow them up. It overheats the engine, basically incapacitating the other vessel. Okay. Now, if we can get to where lasers are even better, then we can play Star Wars.
We just need laser sword snacks.
Right. Now, Ronald Reagan envisioned this in the 80s, that we would have these lasers in space. So a lot of nuclear warheads are delivered on what are called ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, okay? They actually go up and out of the Earth's atmosphere, re-enter the atmosphere, and can hit a target, okay? So having lasers in space to shoot at these things would make us, give us protection, okay? We're not there, but we're getting closer every day. And this is crazy like technology, all right? But I remember back in the early 2000s, the Secretary of Defense was a guy named Donald Rumsfeld. And he said, you know, what we're going to do is we're just going to skip the next generation of technology and try and go to the next generation. So, you know, leap beyond what we know, which is difficult. But you got to think out of the box, and that's why smart people are important. Figure that kind of stuff out. I can't do that. I don't know about you guys, how good you are at science and stuff like that. Right. All right. So 5 functions of government. All right. You're not going to have to write about that or anything on the test, but there might be a question or two on it. Okay. All right. Now we're going to look at different forms of government. Okay. Now, this is. You look at forms of government based on different criteria, okay? Where did they get their authority? We just talked about the divine right theory, right? So monarchies traditionally claim authority from God, okay? Others claim authority from man. We give them the right to rule, okay? There's still around 40 monarchies in the world today, all right? These are a few, all right? Now, the king of Saudi Arabia, this is a hereditary position. So his oldest son will become the king when he dies. Okay? Same with these other countries. Now, these are true monarchies. So these are dictatorships. Okay? This is the Saudi flag. Okay? And so they rule as dictators. Okay? Some dictators are nice. Most are not. Okay. Now I have Britain up here. It's got a monarchy too, but it's different. It's changed since, you know, back in 1775 when we gave King George the middle finger. It's changed. And actually it had begun to change back then. All right. These are what are called constitutional monarchies. Meaning that the real power lies elsewhere in the government, not with the king or queen, okay? So king is a ceremonial head of state. What ceremonial meaning, like it's a tradition. They don't have any real power. So you guys know who the Queen of England is today?
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth. Is she like the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th?
I don't know exactly. I
She's
just
not
know
the
it's
first.
Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah,
and
Queen Elizabeth.
I think its current aircraft carrier is named after her.
And
Well,
she's like 95,
Something around that.
Huh? Longest ruling?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she took over during World War II, didn't she? I think she did.
Just at the beginning or after?
Her father was around at the beginning. There's a really good Netflix show called The Crown. And it's kind of cool because it follows kind of British history as it follows her reign. I know her father was in charge at the beginning of the war, 1940, for the British. But then she took over. So she worked directly with Winston Churchill and so forth. So she's been around for a long time, okay? But anyhow, guys, we're talking about head of state, okay? Now, in this type of system, okay, like this, okay? If this is just a ceremonial, who has the real power in Great Britain?
Parliament.
Well, the prime minister, but we're going to call this person the chief executive. Okay? In our system, President Trump is both. He is seen as the leader of the country, as a head of state, and he runs the day-to-day affairs. So in Great Britain, the prime minister is the chief executive, head of the executive branch, but the queen is the head of state. Okay, and that's a parliamentary system which we will talk about later, like soon, but later. Okay, so you can see there's still a lot of these kind of traditional monarchs, like the Emperor of Japan doesn't have any real power. We stripped him of that after World War II. Okay, and then Norway and Denmark, they have these royal families. I mean, why do they keep these people? It gives something for the tabloids to write about. I mean, this family. The royal family here is just, I mean, it's like a soap opera, okay? So Queen Elizabeth has a son. His name is Charles, okay? Charles falls in love. He's married to Princess Diana. Any guys heard of Princess Diana? Okay, so she's this beautiful woman, but she doesn't come from royal blood. You know what I mean? She's kind of an outsider, but people fall in love with her. She's this beautiful woman. And Charles is just kind of a turd, okay? And Charles... Then he falls in love with this other woman. Okay, I think her name was Camilla or something. She's just like a normal, like British woman, all right? And he has an affair with her. And they split, and Princess Diana dies. And it's all this tragedy. And then, so Princess Diana and Charles had 2 sons, Harry, William, and then Harry. All right? And everybody knows about Harry, right? He's left the royal family, basically, married this woman, Meghan Markle, or whatever her name is, and they've moved to Canada or the United States. Do you follow any of this? Okay, it's like a soap opera, okay? Now, William, the oldest, who's the heir, because Charles has abdicated the throne. He said, I will not become king. Good for them, okay? Because like I said, he's kind of a turd. But anyhow, William is an upstanding young man, and I like Harry. Harry's a redhead. He served in the military. Dude went to Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't have to do any of that, but he did. I respect that. You know what I mean? Somebody from that privilege to go serve, and like, he actually served in infantry in combat zones. Okay? They didn't tell anybody, you know what I mean? Because you don't want the enemy to know that, hey, there's a royal prince over here. Okay? Let's get in. But anyhow, so when Queen Elizabeth dies, William will become king. Okay, I'm sorry. This means nothing, but it's kind of interesting. Okay. All right, moving on. All right, next form of government. Who's that guy? That's Ben Franklin. Okay, and you might remember this quote from your syllabus.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Republican forms of government. Okay, most countries in the world today use a similar system to what we have, which is a republic. Okay, which is a representative democracy, okay, where we elect people to make decisions for us. Okay, so, hey, listen, Russia has invaded the Ukraine, and we are not a representative democracy. We are a true democracy, and we all get to vote. You get an alert on your iPhone. Hey, you got to vote. Are we going to go to defend Ukraine against Russia? Vote yes or no now. What do you know about the Ukraine? I'm not asking you. What do you know about the Ukraine? What do you know about it? Do you know anything about the Ukraine? Why would we let you vote on that? This is why we elect people to make these decisions for us that are educated and informed. Now, do we have some idiots in Congress? Yes, in both parties. Seriously, some real jackasses. All right. Government authority comes from the people, okay? Made up, oh, I've got to remember I'm on. This is going public. Okay, sorry. Made up of people we elect, okay? Now, electing people is a democratic value, okay? That's a democratic value. Do we live in a democracy? No, because if we did, you guys would all get to vote on whether we go to defend the Ukraine or not. Everybody would get to vote on every issue. And we could do it with iPhones. We could have the government buy everybody an iPhone. And give everybody free healthcare too. And pay for everybody's college. What else do you want for free? We can vote on it. We get 51% say we get free college, free healthcare. Then we get it, right? That's how it works, guys. All right. All right. So democracy, meaning in Greek, ruled by the people. Okay. So yeah, in a sense, we're democratic, but we are not a democracy. Please, people, please. Good. Moving on. Uh-oh. Anybody know who this guy is? Good. That's Fidel Castro. This isn't a very good picture. But that's Hitler down there. Okay. Does everybody know whose flag that is over there? China. Okay. Dictatorships. You can see where I'm going, right? Now, guys, this is where things start to get confusing because to this point, it's all pretty simple. When most people think of dictatorships, they think of one person, a dictator, right? So that's not the case. All right. So you have dictatorships, powers concentrated in the hands of a single person or a small group. Okay. So in a dictatorship, people have little, if any, control. In some cases, officials are not elected at all. They take power by force. Okay. If they do have elections, they're usually manipulated. Okay, so I remember when Saddam Hussein was still in power in Iraq, okay, and they held elections for president of Iraq. And the ballot said, Saddam Hussein, yes or no? He got 99, more than 99% of the vote. Do you think people were afraid to check no? Okay. That's a dictatorship. All right. Now, there are different forms, which makes it tricky. So, Castro was an autocrat. He ruled. Stalin was an autocrat. Hitler was an autocrat. Okay? This is not autocracy, it's autocracy. Okay? Rule by one, auto being one. Okay? Could be a monarchy, like the king of Saudi Arabia is a dictator, he's a monarch, and he is an autocrat. All in one. Confused yet? Okay. Now, rule by a few. I like to use China as an example. Okay? When you had the communist revolution in China in 1948, the guy that led that was a guy named Mao Zedong. Okay? He became an autocrat, ruler forever, till he dies. Okay? Subsequent leaders or presidents of China have been elected by the Communist Party. Now, China has 1.3 billion people, but very few people are members of the Communist Party. So that small group of Communist Party members chooses the president. Follow me? So that's ruled by a few. And they can remove that president. They can change presidents. However, the current president of China, President Xi, has been named ruler for life. That's how popular he is. And his wife. His wife is extremely popular. She's like the most popular. She's like Jackie Kennedy. Okay. So, Xi goes from being an oligarch to an autocrat by being named ruler for life. Okay, but typically China is an oligarchy. Okay, that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. Russia did the same thing, but Stalin said, screw that. I'm the master. I am the man. Don't mess with me, or you will disappear. Okay? So from time to time, these dictators will kill the people around them because they're afraid somebody's trying to sabotage them. These people become very paranoid. Okay? Hitler was the same way, right? Hitler would kill anybody he felt was a threat to him, okay? Even if they weren't. Now, all of these dictatorships share this in common. They're authoritarian. They only answer to themselves. Okay? It's a characteristic of a dictatorship. Now, extreme cases of dictatorships we call totalitarian. Okay, so Nazi Germany was totalitarian. Okay, rounding up people, putting them in concentration camps, genocide. Okay, rule through force, controlling every aspect of life. North Korea today is probably the best example of a totalitarian state. Okay, and Kim Jong-un is that dictator. And is he paranoid? This little short, strange-looking man, okay? Yes, he's paranoid. Especially because he's kind of an idiot, okay? When you're stupid and there are other people around you that are smarter than you, you feel threatened by that. So you have them knocked off, okay? I don't know if you know where Myanmar is. It's formerly known as Burma. It's one of the worst oppressive governments on the planet. There was some hope there a few years ago back, and I think when Obama was president, there was this woman that kind of came to power there that tried to reform the system, but I think it slipped back into kind of a totalitarian state. Of course, Nazi Germany, Italy under Mussolini were totalitarian. Italy wasn't as bad, but he was Mussolini was a bad dude, guy. He was a thug. That's kind of the best way to sum up Mussolini. Thug. All right. All right. So dictatorships. All right. Now, guys, we're kind of changing. So where did the people get authority to rule? Right. So republics from the people, monarchs from God. Okay. Now we're looking at where the power lies among levels of government. So does the power lie at the national level, the state level, or the local level? And we're going to look at three different systems. Okay. This first one is called a unitary system. And this is how it works. Because most countries in the world are like this. All right. Most countries use this system where the national government has most, if not all, the power. Where it's state and local levels, they just take orders from the national government. Okay. Now, in Wichita, Kansas, who is the highest elected officer of government in Wichita, Kansas? The highest elected office in Wichita. The local level. Yeah, the mayor. Good. We elect the mayor, right? His name's Mayor Whipple. Mayor Whipple oversees city government. Okay. If you were in a unitary system, Mayor Whipple may be elected at the local level, but he would take his directives, his orders from the national government in Washington, D.C. We don't do that. We don't have a unitary system. Now we're trending in that direction. So let me ask you a question. This mask order, okay, did it come from President Trump and the national government? No. Now, Joe Biden said, right, have you heard this? Joe Biden said, if I was president, I would do a national mask mandate. And he said that publicly a couple of weeks ago. And then his advisors said, hey, Joe, come here. I know you've been in government for 47 years, but the president doesn't have the power to do that. So he retracted it. Okay. He says, I will have a mask mandate on national lands, on federal lands, like at the national park. If you go to the national park, you'll have to wear a mask when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Sorry. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. Now, did the governor of Kansas, Laura Kelly, did she do the mask mandate that we're under right now? No. She did a mask mandate earlier. The whole state was under a mask mandate earlier, okay? The legislature said, you know what? That's too much power to our governor. Because, Sedgwick County, which is where we do get this mask mandate, right? From Sedgwick County, health commissioner, is that his name? What the title? I don't know. We give this guy a lot of power. Anyhow, so the health department says you have to wear a mask in Wichita, Sedgwick County, okay? The state legislature told the governor, said they took away her power to do that. And the reason is this. If you live in western Kansas, in a small community or a small county that has, 3,000 people in the county, okay? And there's 3 cases of COVID in the county. Is that a reason for everybody to wear a mask everywhere they go? Some people might say yes. Okay, but guess what? They get to decide for themselves at the local level. Under a unitary system, you don't have that. You have a one-size-fits-all that comes down from the national government. Now, we are trending in this direction, and it's dangerous, in my opinion. Okay? So, you guys understand how that works? So, Mayor Whipple would either be sent from the capital to Wichita to administer government, or he would take his directives from the national government. Yeah.
Wait, how are we trending?
More and more decisions are being made at the national level, like things on education, which the federal government has no business being in. They have no constitutional authority in. So you see this a lot with educational trends. Things like the drinking age. Okay, so all 50 states have the same drinking age, and those are state laws that did not come down from the federal government. But what the federal government said was, if you want us to send you money for transportation, you'll change your drinking age to 21. Now, the whole thing with tobacco, right? Tobacco was set down from the national government, okay? Which some people said, well, that should be a state decision or a local decision. The communities should decide what's best for them. People in Alabama are different than people in New York. People in California are different than people in Mississippi. Yeah? And they think differently. So they should be able to make decisions on their own, not a one-size-fits-all. Maybe you don't feel that way. Maybe we need really smart people that went to Harvard and Yale, that live in Washington, D.C., who are smarter than you and I, to make these decisions for us. You know why? Because we're stupid. Out here in Kansas, we're a bunch of hayseeds and hicks. And you know what? We read the Bible, too. How stupid is that? I'm being facetious here, okay? But this is how they view us, these elites in Washington, D.C. They think we're stupid. We don't know how to raise our children. We need to tell you how to raise your children. You don't know how to raise yourself, so we need to take care of you. Should we have helmet laws for children riding bikes? When I was a kid, I didn't wear a helmet. And you're saying to yourself, yeah, I can tell, Mr. E, right? You're kind of nuts. I didn't wear a helmet. You know how many times I crashed my bike? Dozens of times. I still have scars from when I was a kid. Okay? Should we make a law where everybody has, what about motorcycles? You want a national law that says if you drive a motorcycle, you have to wear a helmet? Yeah, because people are stupid. Well, guess what, people? You have the right to be stupid, at least for now in this country. They may take that right away from us to be stupid, to protect us from ourselves, because we're stupid people. So let's get some really smart people that go to the elite universities in Washington, D.C. to help us live our lives. And we can say thank you. Come on, guys, that's funny. Some of you think maybe we need that, okay? That's the unitary system, okay? The big unit decides everything, right? Big brother. Did you guys have to read 1984? Doggone it. Everybody should have to read 1984. Everybody. You have to read Fahrenheit 451, is it? Yeah. You read it?
We didn't have time in my class.
Everybody needs to read it. Right? Scary stuff, right? Just give government control and everything will be better. Okay, we use this system. Powers divided or shared between national, state, and local governments. Again, I'm being recorded here, okay? Now, this is what we chose to do, okay, in 1787. All right? Oh, the bell's going to ring because I have 4 minutes left, okay? So some powers go to the national. So can Kansas declare war on Canada? No. That's a power only here. Can Kansas print its own money? No. Okay. That's a power that's only given to the national government. Some things we do for ourselves. I'll pick up on that. Okay. We're always behind in here. Have a good weekend.